gotta put one foot in front of the other and lead with love. Put one foot in front of the other and lead with love. You gotta put one foot in front of the other and lead with love. Put one foot in front of the other and lead with love. Don't give up hope. Don't give up hope. You're not alone. You're not alone. Don't you give up. Don't you give up. Keep moving on. Keep moving on. You gotta put one foot in front of the other and lead with love. Put one foot in front of the other and lead with love. You gotta put one foot in front of the other and lead with love. Put one foot in front of the other and lead with love. Lift up your eyes, lift up your eyes. Don't you despair, don't you despair. Look up ahead, look up ahead. The path is there, the path is there.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Sharmila Curry, and I am delighted to be your worship associate this morning. It is good to see you. During the pandemic, we have remained connected and active. We are still a vibrant congregation with open minds, spirits, and hearts. I hope this moment finds you well. Normally, if you would like more information about FirstU, it would be at the welcome table at the back of our pews. However, while our building is closed because of the COVID-19 virus, you may instead contact us through email at welcome@firstunitarian.ca. I repeat, for more information, please email us at welcome@firstunitarianottawa.ca. Our normal hospitality hour will follow this service as a virtual getting together. If you would like to join us for hospitality hour on Zoom, please see our website, firstunitarianottawa.ca, or our weekly email newsletter, the EUU, for information on how to do so. I now have some announcements to share. In these times, our staff are working remotely and are monitoring emails during usual working hours. You will find their remote work numbers and direct emails on the staff directory page of our website. It is more important than ever to sign up to receive our EUU, the weekly email newsletter, check out our Facebook page, and look at our web pages for notices and updates. Our online calendar is as full as ever. I have some Enviro actions to share for you for the month of July. Don't forget to take some time this summer to read an environmentally themed book. Check out the summer reading book list. And don't forget to take some photos of scenes or situations you find distressing, along with some that you find hopeful, and send them to Photo Voice, Hope in Action. Links and information for both are in the EUU or the Climate Confrontation page. And remember our Enviro advocacy for July. Send an email to the chair of the city's Environment Committee, Scott Moffat, with a copy to other members, asking them to recommend to the City Council that they pressure the province to phase out gas-fired power plants by 2030. There are links to a sample letter you can adapt, plus email addresses in the EUU. And finally, the good news. We hope the trio of promises made by the federal government this month were more than just pre-election posturing. They include light rail funding for the light rail green line in Calgary, a high-frequency rail promise for the Quebec City-Toronto corridor and federal funding to replace coal-fired production processes at Algoma Steel in Sault Ste. Marie with electric arc furnaces for green steel production. Whatever your heritage, whatever your faith, whomever you love, and however you identify, today you are part of our spiritual community. Welcome. We hope you come back soon. Our opening words this morning are from Susan Magin, A Call from Beyond. From beyond the playful summer clouds, beyond the earth's thin blue line, from beyond the bright moon and meteor showers, we hear the call to look and listen carefully, to turn away from a world that buys and sells happiness, to fully experience the luring whisper of your heart's truth. Why not today? Why not now? We are here and together at home in this evolving place, home in this ever-changing breath and body, home in this dewing morning even as it reaches towards a hot high noon. We hear the call from far beyond and deep within. We do not hear it alone. Come, let us worship together.
Chalice, chalice, burning bright, help remind us with your light of how we'd like to live each day with love and truth helping lead the way.
Amelia and Her Super Magical Powers by Gail Spar. This is the story of a young girl named Amelia. Amelia was fascinated by tales of people with superpowers, like Wonder Woman or magic like Harry Potter. She yearned to have powers like that so she could help people. Like the boy she often saw sitting all alone at lunch, looking very sad. If I had magic powers, I could make him smile, she said to herself. Ooh, or like the kids who were being picked on in the schoolyard by older girls. Ooh, superpowers would straighten her out fast, she said. And whenever she walked past the old rundown park near her house, she imagined how magic powers could fix it up so kids had a place to play. One night, just as Amelia was about to fall asleep, a fairy godmother came into her room. Hello, Amelia, she said. I'm here to help you. What have you been wishing for? Oh, said Amelia, please give me some super magic powers so I can make a difference. Well, said the fairy godmother, I'm happy to give you some magic, Amelia. But oh, thank you, cried Amelia. And with that, she fell right to sleep. The next morning, when Amelia woke up, she remembered what had happened the night before. She jumped out of bed, eager to get going and test out her new superpowers. As she walked to school, she realized she'd forgotten to ask what she needed to do to release those powers. Say some secret words, give a high sign or something else, but she decided she'd figure it all out as she went along. That day at lunch, she saw the same sad boy sitting by himself at lunch again. Let's try some magic, she said, and she wiggled her fingers at him from a distance. Nothing. Maybe I need to be closer, she thought. So she walked closer to him, and he looked up at her. She couldn't help but give him a friendly smile. and when she did, his face beamed with his own huge smile. Huh, thought Amelia, I really do have magic. Can I join you for lunch, she asked. Sure, he said, smiling even bigger. The two of them laughed and talked all during lunchtime. She learned his name was Bobby. He lost his father earlier in the year, and he and his mother had moved here after that. He didn't know anyone and was too shy to go up to kids and talk. Well, Amelia and Bobby became good friends, and Bobby smiled a lot from then on. One day, soon after that, Amelia and Bobby were in the playground when they saw Karen bullying two younger kids by the swings. She'd read what to do about bullies, but she had never tried any of it before because she wasn't really sure she could do it. But now, with her superpowers, she was ready. Come on, Bobby, let's go help those kids. So they walked up to where Karen stood over the two children, and Amelia wiggled her fingers at her and said loudly, Karen, stop it right now. Come on, Dodie and Lou. Come with Bobby and me. You're safe with us. After they four of them had left, Amelia told the two, if she bothers you again, just turn around and walk away. Act like you don't hear her. Don't show any emotions. And if she keeps on trying to hurt you, let Mr. Crenshaw in the office know. I'll go with you if you need me to. They did just as Amelia said, and Karen never bothered those kids again. Well, by now Amelia was feeling pretty good about her super magic powers. How can I use them to fix up our old park? She wondered. Wiggling her fingers didn't work. She still didn't know any magic words. Maybe if I start working to clean it, something will occur to me, and so she did. She took trash bags to the park and started picking up trash that had been left there. Before long, a couple of friends came by and asked what she was doing. I'm fixing our park so we can play in it again. So that sounded like a great idea to her friends, and they began to help. Soon other kids joined them. They picked up trash and pulled weeds and cleared out dead brush. Little by little, the park began to look better. When some of the parents saw the improvement, they decided to help. Some mowed the grass, others built picnic tables, and still others convinced the city to buy some new equipment. It was hard work, and it took many days, but they got their new park. When it was all done, the whole neighborhood had a picnic in their new park to celebrate it. After the picnic, Amelia fell exhausted into bed. She was just about to fall asleep when the fairy godmother came back. Oh, I'm so happy to see you, said Amelia. I want to thank you for giving me all those super magic powers. But I tried to tell you, my wand was broken. I didn't give you any, said the fairy godmother. You must have given me some powers, protested Amelia. How else could I have made Bobby happy, stopped a bully, and given our neighborhood a wonderful park? The fairy godmother just smiled. My dear, you did that because you possess 3 powers that you developed yourself: kindness, bravery, and determination. With those 3 things, you are making a difference. And with that, Amelia fell fast asleep.
Wonder
This is the time in the service when we recognize the personal joys and sorrows. We do this by placing stones in water and allowing the ripples to take the messages out throughout the universe so that people may either commiserate or congratulate. I have a request from Carmen to place a stone of both joy and sorrow in memory of her mother, Adela, who passed away July 16th, 2014. I also would like to place a stone of sorrow and despair for all the wildfires that are taking place out west. It's a terrible, terrible situation, and I hope they'll be able to get a handle on it. Ottawa seems to be doing very well as far as COVID is concerned, and I place a stone of congratulations about that, but I place a big stone of sorrow as COVID seems to be resurging in many parts of the world. So I urge people to maintain their vigilance so that we can get rid of that terrible scourge. The viruses may stay ahead of us, so we have to be very careful. And for those who are dealing with COVID directly, a stone of condolences. And I'll place one last stone for all the joys and sorrows that are held in our hearts. We will now have a moment of silence.
Good morning. This morning it's my distinct pleasure to introduce Robb Barnes. Robb Barnes is the Executive Director of Ecology Ottawa. Before joining Ecology Ottawa as a volunteer in 2013, Robb worked in the nonprofit, public and private sectors. Robb brought advocacy experience to Ecology Ottawa from his time in politics and nonprofits, and policy experience from his time as a management consultant, working closely with various levels of government. Robb is passionate about environmental and animal welfare issues, community organizing, and urban design. Robb holds a master's in public and international affairs, where he focused on the intersection of ecological economics and urban sprawl. Many of us know Robb from the congregation's work with Ecology Ottawa. Ecology Ottawa has been seminal in the community in pushing back against urban sprawl, hosting community projects which improve watersheds, planting 1 million trees, and ongoing issues that crop up in our community. I've come to greatly admire Robb's many skills: a great listener, a leader who is very thoughtful and works through consensus. I think these are all values that we as Unitarians can identify with. And with that, I introduce his talk and look very much forward to staying in touch with Robb in the days ahead. Thank you.
Good morning, members of the First Unitarian Congregation of Ottawa. My name is Robb Barnes, and I'm the Executive Director of Ecology Ottawa. It's really an honor and a privilege to share this time with you this morning. I really wish I could be there in person, but obviously things are still a little bit complicated, hopefully not for too much longer. Uh, Thank you for your commitment to community and to a greener and more just city and planet. Today, I'd like to speak on the theme of resilience. As you know, we're now passing the 16th month since the calamitous global onset of COVID-19. This pandemic has killed over 4 million people worldwide, including nearly 600 here at home in Ottawa. Just last week, the Ecology Ottawa community lost a dear friend and former employee to this disease. So even as Ottawa's vaccination rates climb and we begin to see signs of a return to normal, we have been irrevocably changed. Beyond the human tragedy, the lives altered forever, and the devastating effects of long COVID, there are other important threads as we think back over the past 16 months. At a social and cultural level, we've seen heightened awareness of the causes and effects of racial injustice. And while the May 2020 killing of George Floyd lit a spark for structural and cultural change in the United States, it is a spark that has quickly spread across the globe. Here at home, in addition to a renewed discussion on themes of race, policing, and institutional reform, there has been renewed focus on the tragedy of Canada's residential schooling system. Of course, this discussion has been prompted by the recent discovery of hundreds of unmarked graves. Debates are raging over the meaning and identity of Canada, over who gets to write history, who gets remembered, over the meaning and implications of reconciliation in the 21st century. While the roots of all of these issues stretch back hundreds of years, it is no great logical leap to suspect that society's response to them has been intensified by this COVID experience, that the knock-on effects of a pandemic, spiraling unemployment, escalating inequalities, profound strains to community well-being, have exacerbated pre-existing fissures in our social fabric. COVID has magnified and compounded social ills and has brought them to the very forefront of the public imagination and discussion. Behind this narrative, I see two other very important stories as well. One is perhaps grim, but still important, while the other is far more hopeful. First, there's the story of what lurks behind this current crisis. For most of the past 16 months, COVID has displaced other threats in the public imagination. This is understandable. Just as a hungry person might focus on finding food rather than solving food insecurity, it makes sense that a pandemic-ravaged planet would focus on pressing issues of public health rather than on more distant-seeming ones. However, and I know this group needs no reminding here, the climate crisis hasn't gone anywhere. Despite a substantial dip in greenhouse gas emissions after the onset of the COVID pandemic, which by the way is one unprecedented in modern human history, atmospheric CO2 levels have now risen to 419 parts per million. This is a level not seen on Earth for at least the last 4 million years. We continue to see the real-life impacts of climate chaos and a rapidly heating world, from hundreds of people dying during the recent heat dome event in the west coast, to devastating drought and wildfires threatening more lives in the American Southwest as we speak. 2020 was the hottest year on record, and 2021 threatens to shatter more records still. And as those of us familiar with climate change well know, our situation can't improve on a dime. The United Nations has warned that millions are now vulnerable to climate-induced hunger, drought, and disease. Many more lives are at risk, even if our society undergoes the radical transformation necessary to keep warming from spiraling out of control. To quote from an upcoming report from the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, or IPCC, which is the UN body that reviews and analyzes the state of play on climate change, they write, "Climate change will fundamentally reshape life on Earth in the coming decades, even if humans can tame planet-warming greenhouse gas emissions." They also write, "The worst is yet to come, affecting our children's and grandchildren's lives much more than our own." And so whatever we do next, we will need to do two things at once. As a community, as a country, and as a global family, we'll need to address near-term threats while committing unprecedented attention to what has been sometimes called the long emergency, the ongoing degradation of the very life support systems of our planet. The second story I want to tell is far more hopeful. In a fundamental way, the past year has shown the deep power of community resilience. We see this in at least two ways. First, the reaction to some of the most pernicious and destructive social ills of our time, racism, colonialism, poverty, has been a social awakening and a vibrant discussion that no one would have predicted only months earlier. It's been said, perhaps by some people who are more cynical than myself, that no one should ever let a good crisis go to waste. This crisis, its cascading effects and its sweeping counter-reaction indicates to me that progress is truly possible in an open and democratic society. Debates matter, ideas matter, and they can ultimately strengthen our social fabric even in the face of profound adversity. People can be convinced, and entire institutions can change if we approach the problem with reason and perseverance, and we approach solutions with imagination and compassion. This has profound implications when it comes to the environment. At a fundamental level, the question we need to ask ourselves is, can we afford to go back to business as usual? Real and deep climate action has radical implications. We're not really asking everyone to just recycle, or to shorten their showers, or even to switch to an electric car, as helpful as these small steps might be. We're actually seeking a much more fundamental change, rooted in public policy and, at a deeper level, in a new ethics anchored around a more profound relationship with the natural world. We need a new energy system, we need a new food system, we need a new transportation system, and we need a new understanding of the role and function of key elements within our economy and social order. The past 16 months have demonstrated what is possible when society feels compelled to act around a pressing public health threat. When it comes to climate action, while governments have made some important policy moves and some declarative gestures over the past few years, there has never been a more pressing need for a radical reimagination of what should be normal or what should be considered possible. The second and perhaps more plain and obvious observation is this: we're still here. That is to say, the congregation, this conversation, etc., despite a once-in-a-century global pandemic with catastrophic shocks to some of the most fundamental threads that weave together our community fabric, there is so much that we haven't lost. Births, birthdays, graduations, gatherings with friends, congregation meetings like this one, supply lines, except for, of course, toilet paper, as we all know. All of these things withstood an unprecedented shock, sometimes in very surprising ways. I can't help but wonder about what this says about our capacity as a society. What are we truly capable of when we're pushed to the limit? From my position with Ecology Ottawa, I know that COVID did nothing to dampen the spirit of our community leaders. In May of last year, thousands raised their voices for an end to reckless urban sprawl. Thousands more took part in our tree program, working to improve their communities with the tangible act of planting trees. While chaos raged on the front page of every newspaper, we saw the same determined community work for things like better transit, better pedestrian networks, more bike lanes, cleaner air, and greater local climate ambition. And with so much potential for positive city-enhancing work in the darkest depths of a global crisis, what does this say about the capacity for transformative change in Ottawa in the months and years ahead? COVID has taught us not to take the power of community resilience for granted. We have been tested, and it turns out that we're much more powerful and much less fragile than we may have assumed. For that lesson, I'm deeply thankful and, despite everything, quite hopeful. Now I have a personal story to share. My son Will was born on March 16th, 2018. The COVID lockdown kicked in on his second birthday, and he's now spent more than a third of his life in a world dominated by a pandemic. Like millions of other kids across the planet, he's missed out on hugs from his grandparents, swimming lessons, gatherings with friends, and even the seemingly banal experience of going grocery shopping with his dad. His visits to the park got infinitely complicated, and until very recently, he got quite used to picking out a toddler-sized mask in the same way that he decides on his t-shirt or hat before we leave the house. I'm sure I was told this before I became a parent, but it didn't compute at the time. When people said fatherhood changes everything, I thought they were talking about losing sleep, or maybe never having enough time for anything. What I didn't anticipate was the immediate sense that it would be so easy to give up everything for someone who, at only 3 years of age, I've known for far less time than other family or close friends. I also didn't anticipate how my understanding of environmental action would change. Before Will arrived, I knew climate action had to be the fight of my lifetime, but only in an abstract way. Now, in the deepest way I can imagine, I'm tethered to a future that extends far beyond my time on this earth. With any luck, Will's future will go beyond the 2050 and 2100 guideposts we often use when talking about future climate impacts. However, even if we act with ambition and resolve, his future will unfold on a planet that is immeasurably more chaotic than the one any of us have known to date. It could well be a future of escalating systemic shocks, of severe weather, climate migration, food insecurity, and a geopolitical order that is completely rocked by routine bombardment from multiple crises. As you can imagine, this thought keeps me up at night. But beyond preparing Will in every way I know how, it also spurs me to continue working for a safe and healthy environment. Will's future will also be shaped by the lessons we've learned under COVID. The question is, what lessons will we draw? Here are a few that I would suggest. First, that scientific expertise, whether with climate models or vaccines, matters deeply and should be respected. Second, that when the planet focuses on a global risk affecting every one of us, heretofore unimaginable outcomes, like vaccines ready in under 1 year, are possible. Third, that proactive policymaking can save millions of lives, but only if we demand it, which gets to the fourth point. To do this well, we need to preserve the strength of our communities and the responsiveness of our democratic institutions. I hope we conclude that resilience is the key to our future in a climate-changed world. That like a forest that regrows after a devastating fire, or like the plants that punch through sidewalks and anything else that stands in their way, that we are capable of profound things. I'll close with a line from one of my personal heroes, Dr. Martin Luther King. Dr. King said, "If you can't fly, then run. If you can't run, then walk. If you can't walk, then crawl. But whatever you do, you have to keep moving forward." That, to me, is the essence of resilience, that admixture of tenacity and hope. And whether we're talking about civil rights, recovery from a global pandemic, or resolve in the face of an escalating climate crisis, it points to the need for inner strength and intentional optimism. As we consider a return to a post-COVID world, I hope you'll join me in creating a new normal that works for everyone and that addresses the most pressing challenges of our day. I hope you'll recommit to grounding this global struggle in local action and community strength. Thank you so much for sharing your time with me this morning.
Touches one affects us all. The seas that wash us around about, the clouds that cover us, the rains that fall. Our world is one world. The thoughts we think affect us all. The way we build our attitudes with love or hate we make a bridge or wall. Our world is one world. Its ways of wealth affect us all. The way we spend, the way we share, who are the rich or poor, who stand or fall. Our world is one world, just like a ship that bears us all, where fear and greed make many holes, but where our hearts can hear a different call.
This is a time in our service where we usually accept the offering. You may go to our website or contact our finance manager to find out how you may keep up with your pledge or make a donation during these times. We give these gifts freely. We give these gifts gratefully. We dedicate these gifts to the work of our congregation, serving human wholeness, caring for the planet, upholding religious freedom, welcoming the stranger, loving one another. Our closing words: cooperation for human creativity. Love our earth. Take action to consume less, use less energy, respect water. And be cooperative, collaborative, and creative community, like the moss and the mushrooms. Our children's lives depend on us.
Spirit of life, come unto me. Sing in my heart all the stirrings of compassion. Blow in the wind, rise in the sea, cool vida squari de justiça, ternurimo, cielo potois, source de vie, viens vers moi, viens vers moi.
Be true, be well, be loving. We leave this gathered community, but we don't leave our connection, our concerns, our care for each other, our service to each other, to the world, and to our faith continues. Until we are together again, friends, be strong, be well, be true, be loving.
You gotta put one foot in front of the other and lead with love. Put one foot in front of the other and lead with love. You gotta put one foot in front of the other and lead with love. Put one foot in front of the other and lead with love. Don't give up hope. Don't give up hope. You're not alone. You're not alone. Don't you give up. Don't you give up. Keep